Yeah, welcome to the NFDIxCS Soirée number 10, how LLMs can make scientific literature more accessible. So a good evening and a very warm welcome. I'm Ariana Dongos from the German Informatics Society, and there, together with my team, I'm doing the project management for the NFDIxCS, and I'm delighted to moderate today's 10th soiree, where we explore how LLMs can help make scientific literature more accessible. What does that mean? As you may know, the ever-growing number of scientific publications makes it increasingly challenging for researchers to keep track of relevant work, identify insights, for example, and ensure that their outputs always remain findable and reusable in line with the FAIR principles. And within our project, a system has been developed that uses LLMs to automatically extract key concepts from scientific articles and in order to structure this information for improved discovery and reuse. An important part of this work is a Zotero plugin, and that we will see about it. We will see a little demo in a few moments. And yeah, we're very welcome. I'm very pleased. I'm very welcome. I'm welcoming myself. No, I wanted to say I'm very pleased to welcome our speakers, Sami Ataya and Moayad Amwaishi from NFDIxCS, who will share insights into this topic. And let's see how real-world usage scenarios can look like. And after the short talks, there will be time for questions from your side and, of course, a discussion with the two speakers. A quick note before we begin, this session is being recorded as I speak. So I hope that you're fine with it. If not, you're also free to leave the room. And with that, let's get started. And I hand over the word to Moayad, if I'm correct.
Hello, everyone. My name is Moayad Al-Muhaishi. I'm part of the NFDI CrossCS here from University of Bayreuth. I'm a PhD student, and I was working on semantic extraction with Sami using LLM. And I will present a little bit of what we were doing as introductory, and then I will give the talk to Sami to complete. So again, my name is Moayad Al-Muhaishi. I'm here to present a little about what we are doing in the NFDIxCS. So the idea here is our objective from using such extraction tool is to extract key semantic information from text, like from applications text, and that using LLM as extraction tools. We tested multiple extraction LLM models. And we went with small models, large models, and multiple models that we tested until we came up to the best one that we could use. And this was compared to 122 papers that was manually extracted from business process management conference papers. And this also indicates that this extraction tool is intensive, like work intensive, and it requires a lot of time and also a lot of effort to finish. And in this case, LLM extraction tool will be like the solution for a scalable semantic extraction. So let me introduce a little about what is a research publication. So usually in computer science, we have a publication like the normal scenario. And this publication usually combined with research artifact. And this research artifact is a software and also data, like you're using the data for that software and vice versa. In this case, we have this paper linked to two artifacts, and then we find another paper, and this paper comes in and say like, oh, this paper A have a software that I can use. I have my own data. I will use it on this software. Let's try. And that will end up with a good publication that have been reused with software. And then we have the other case where other paper find the data useful and they want to use their own algorithm on this data. And that also part of the reuse. And here, when you find the data, it helps you with your publication faster than when you try to create a data. For example, our data set that we created And if other people find it and use it, it will save them a lot of time from extracting the same aspects. And now, before you find the data or the software, you need to find the paper first so you can cite it and link to it. And that's important. So with our extraction tool, we aim to extract semantic information from this literature and then fill out this information into knowledge graph. And this will help in retrieving and finding these papers and linking with different kind of aspects from papers related to each other. But how this is done is we created a coding schema, and with that schema, we take each paper and pass it to the schema, and then extract these kind of aspects from these papers. And for example, we extract type of artifact, or for example, the goal of the paper, the outcome, the motivation, the research questions, and the availability of data or not. And all of these will link together with multiple papers, will help in increasing the findability of the papers. So with the extraction tool, we aim to evaluate it. I mean, the extraction tool itself, we have multiple use cases. So one use case of using LLM for extraction is to use it as an extraction tool. And this tool could help, like at the end here, I have a researcher or PhD students or even reviewers for assessing like papers faster, because we have questions that already set and the user need to only to select the question and retrieve the data that he need. And that's also like it will gather and store data, knowledge graph, and easier retrieve comparing to evaluation. And the second use case is to fill out an indexing service, for example, and that will increase the findability of the research. And here we have also like a public knowledge graph for the indexing service. It's like a private knowledge graph. The user is not accessible to knowledge graph. But here, for example, it's a public knowledge graph using such as OpenORCAGI, Open Research Knowledge Graph, or maybe DLPP, and other kind of open publications or knowledge graphs. And this will automate scalable and have like scalable solution for our problem and reduce the manual effort that coding could, like manual coding could put on normal researchers. Okay, that's I think what I have, and maybe Sami also could complete now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Moyat. So
Okay, I will close this.
I will try to take over and share my screen and start presentation. Okay, can you see the slides?
Yes.
Should be an outline slide. Okay, perfect. So I will also give a quick overview of the work that we did last year, and then what we are currently working on, and also kind of like what challenges exist in this topic. So especially like technical and reliability wise. So again, as Moyat stated, the problem is that more and more papers are published every year, but the time we have to do literature research stays limited. So better tools that make the relevant research visible and easily understandable could help us with this problem. We explored LLMs for this task, and we basically processed the whole full text of the paper with the LLM, and then extract the specific semantic concepts that can be used as structured metadata to compare, link, and find relevant work. And as Moya stated, we also created a manual test set with predefined concepts from the business processing domain to evaluate this. So our key findings were basically that open source LLMs were competitive with the proprietary ones at this time. And even with naive few-shot learning, so where you take a few examples for the extraction, you can improve the performance, especially for free text and categorical answers. So what do we do with these results or with these approaches that we explored last year? Our main goal is to make this approach a bit more available to the broader research community in a way that ensures it's usable even if our project concludes. And the idea is therefore to develop a plugin for Zotero that can be used locally and is not relying on a online service that we provide with hosting. And this has the advantage that we can reuse the full text access from Zotero in the institutional user context. So when you're using Zotero in your university network, it has a built-in function to kind of like access papers where your university library has licensing deals with the publishers. And we can also augment the existing workflows that researchers might already be doing with Zotero. In later stage of this project, we also want to explore if we can fine-tune smaller open weights LLMs so that it can run, so we can efficiently run locally on machines and therefore decouple the project from any external services. Finally, we envision a lightweight search service that stores extracted crowdsourced embeddings associated with free metadata to enable the efficient global semantic search and not just in your local collection. So it's very rough ongoing work, but I can already show like a few, like a rough example of a plugin that we, or at least a beta version of the plugin that we developed so far. But as I say, it's ongoing. So normally with Zotero, this is the UI that you generally have. You can install plugins. So here I installed this working title plugin. You can then go to the settings and configure your model provider. It's also possible to use basically a local model provider because this, I'd say OpenAI style API has is supported by most software that also runs models locally, and I already tested it. I won't show it right now with the local one because it's quite slow on my machine. It takes maybe 20 seconds to process a paper. You can then have here the predefined extraction targets. So here I just have maybe research question and sample size, and you can also edit this and add your own extractions that you want to use. So but I have to move this bar. Yeah, now it's gone. And then finally in my collection, so I have here a collection with some papers that have full text attached. I can select, for example, these two and say, okay, I want to extract the research question of these, and then the tool or the plugin goes, extracts the full text of the PDFs, and then together with the instruction sends it to my service. And then I can now see, where is it finished already? Yeah, here. So it comes back. Right now it just attaches a node to the Zotero library. And then I can see, okay, the extracted research question here is whether or not LLMs are able to do zero and few shot learning. Very relevant. And here again, but it's highly customizable. So long term, we envision that we can also kind of structure these results and then give you a comparison table in this context. So coming back to the presentation, what challenges and open research topics exist when doing this? I guess most of us have encountered that LLMs generate hallucinations by this point. But these mostly occur if you don't actually ground the LLMs in relevant context. But what about like the reliability in settings where theoretically the LLM has sufficient information in its context window to generate an accurate response? So in our studies, we found that also in these cases, LLMs might come up with hallucinations, even though all the relevant information is already there. And I want to highlight some of these cases. So this one is taken from a study that we did in the participation at BioAsk. So BioAsk is a challenge for biomedical question answering. And here, the question that is posed to the LLM is basically, what is the first indication for lurazidone? And lurazidone is a medical, pharmaceutical product. And we supply the LLM with the relevant snippet from this paper that states that lurazidone is approved for the treatment of schizophrenia and was approved by the FDA in 2009. And the model actually generates an answer where it states that it was approved in 2010, but correctly, okay, schizophrenia and bipolar depression. So what is actually correct? If we blindly flag anything that the model generate that is not in line with the source document, so in this case, the approval was 2009 according to the paper, but the model generated 2010 as a hallucination, we might have missed that the model in this case is actually right. So lurazidone was actually approved for the treatment of schizophrenia by the FDA in 2010 and not in 2009 as wrongly stated in the provided context from the paper. So we also could have these cases where the context that we provide is wrong, but at the same time, the model kind of mixes the approval date for this additional indication, which is bipolar depression, which was only approved in 2013. So it's not, we still get the correct answer to our question because our main question was, what is the primary indication? And that is schizophrenia. But we also get like incorrect information. And it's also very hard to check what is correct. So what do we take away from this example? Hallucination detection is more complex than just checking agreement with the source document. And I would say the only reliable way to resolve such errors is through user scrutiny. So ideally, we would flag up these discrepancies in the UI and assist the user in finding the real truth. Another example is from a more recent study that we did with the university hospital here in Regensburg with the urology department. And the goal here was to extract treatment recommendations from clinical guidelines. And in this case, the model extracted this treatment recommendation from a guideline. So it's for rare diseases. We are basically wanting to test the limits of the knowledge of the LLMs. And here it is, discuss surveillance versus invasive staging for intermediate risk, PT1AG2, LVI plus patients, and shared decision making. I'm guessing that we don't have any urologists online that could spot the error for us, so I will highlight it. This coding that the model used, so PT1AG2 LVI plus, is kind of nonsensical because this classification PT1A implies that the tumor has not spread to the lymphovascular system, but LVI plus means that it actually did. And if that would have happened, the staging would have been automatically upstaged to PT1B. So this example kind of showcases how hard it is for non-experts in these edge cases to kind of find these errors that these LLMs generate. And this leaves us with the open question. So how do we check these systems if only a few specialists know the ground truth for such errors? Yeah, and this already brings me to my conclusion. So we are working on a Zotero plugin that integrates our approach from last year into local workflows. The goal is to leave a sustainable community-driven plugin as an artifact after our project concludes. And we plan to publish a first limited beta version soon. And we're also working on how to quantify and highlight this uncertainty in generated LLM outputs and how to best present this information to their users to spark scrutiny and double check the generated information. And yeah, with that, I'm hoping we can start a discussion.
Yeah, thank you so much to you two. If there's already a question in the audience, feel free to text it, I guess. And until then, I would be curious to know, if the plugin works better with certain types of papers or disciplines than with others, because as you already mentioned, this is like highly expert knowledge in a way. And have you also tried it with other disciplines?
Yeah, I mean, the approach using LLMs for information extraction in general, I think it depends a bit on both the paper and also of the kind of like information that you're looking for. So, for example, and also of the model that you use. So, if it's like a straightforward extraction, so for example, like an explicitly stated research question, that might work quite well with different models and different papers. But if you have some information that is maybe, I don't know, spread through the paper and is more complicated to kind of reassemble for the model. So, for example, you would be looking for, I don't know, a final sample size in a medical study. But in the paper, they state, okay, they included, I don't know, 600 patients, and then they excluded 10 because some reasons, and then some other patients dropped out or something. And the final sample size is never stated in the paper. Then, especially like smaller LLMs might struggle with coming up with the final accurate number because it takes a bit of like mathematical deduction basically to come up with this. And this makes, for example, some questions harder to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to add anything to that, Wyatt?
No, I think that's cover everything. But in manual extraction, for example, not using LLM, that's also still an issue at some points to extract hidden in the text information.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, LLM could also do better when it's trained good, or when, for example, using a large scale model, for example, 70 billion parameter or something
Mm-hmm.
like.
Thank you. I have from Ulrich Sterfbo a comment and a question. Very impressive. Thank you for the nice presentations. The Zotero plugin is a great idea, but you still need to find the relevant paper before querying the paper with LLMs. It seems extremely valuable for identifying repavent papers, for writing manuscripts in a huge pile of, oh, this looks interesting papers. How is your envisioned workflow for this?
So the long-term vision for this would be to kind of like also index these extractions. So in the last year's project, we focused on a specific domain. To have this possible, you have to define these extraction targets beforehand in a way, and you have to limit also kind of like the breadth of papers that you are looking for, because it's still not feasible to index, like, for example, all of Semantic Scholar, or yeah, it might be feasible to index all of Semantic Scholar with predefined extraction targets, but it's quite costly. But you could say, okay, maybe I'm interested in these five, I don't know, conferences, and I know that they all deal in the same topical domain, and I know that in this domain, for example, business processing, business process management, these key information is relevant from the papers, and then we could pre-process all of these papers and index, even for like stuff like the research question embeddings, and then we could find with given a research question, we could find similar papers that have the same research question, or given a method, we could find papers that use the same method. So this is something that we would also have integrated in this plugin to kind of have like a search service available where you could find, given some extraction, other similar or relevant papers, but still something for later stage.
Okay, there's a thumbs up from Ulrich Steffo. Thank you for answering. Moya, do you wanna add something, or was this?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
what Sami said is cover all the area, but I want just to mention that we are in NFDIxCS focusing on few subdomain now. For example, the business process management, and also some effort to focus on software architecture. But also later on, we want to create a joint structure schema that we could make it easier for extraction for multiple domain. But also like covering all the research in the world at once is not easy and it need time until step by step we can do that to be able to create a service that's enough for finding related work, I would say.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Okay, I see. Do I see another question? For now, no, but I would be curious to know how customizable your plugin is. Like, for example, could I, as a researchers in art theory, humanities, define categories or questions? Can I, like, could this be of use also outside the computer science domain, or is this pretty much trained on the ductus, to say in English, the way research questions are framed and the whole language, like the culture around how you write a paper, is already framed towards this? Or could you technically also use it for different domains and like customize it?
Mhm. So in general, like in the approach, so it depends. So the general approach is very customizable, where you basically just prompt the LLM with the information that you want to extract. And you can do this with a lot of tools right now, like everything offers you to basically chat with your PDF or yeah, I don't know, uh, Adobe or I've seen it in a lot of tools, but there's an advantage if you kind of like predefine these concepts. So if you know that there's a certain domain and you know that these concepts are relevant, then you can basically mm, help the model understand the task with a few examples way better, and this greatly improves the accuracy of the approach. So in this case, this has to then be kind of like there has to be a process where experts define these concepts and then you collect some examples and then make this available for the users to have like these improved models. And what we also envision is exploring how we can train models that are in general more accurate in extracting these texts. So there's already like some specialized models available, open source also, but we might be able to additionally improve them, focusing on scientific texts and scientific paper formats. Yeah.
Okay, that's exciting. Maybe one concluding question, like what are you most excited about to go ahead with this research and with this tool?
So for me personally, I would be most excited to see people actually using the tool when we have it ready, and then collecting user feedback to actually see what are people doing, what is the most valuable stuff that they are doing, what do they find most helpful in their workflows. I think this is the biggest challenge to kind of like bring custom user workflows together with assisting them with these tools.
And for you, Moed?
Yeah, I think the same. I'm
He's
excited to
always
see.
answering first, so you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I cannot add anything new. The idea is that researcher can find what they want fast and to help them
Yeah,
in doing their research.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
think,
it's not doing their research for them, but
yeah,
helping them improve their research and making their work faster and more efficient.
yeah.
And any tool that helps really appreciated in the field.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Not that I'm a computer scientist myself, but I also know for other academic disciplines that there's just a lot of information and texts there. So that is a interesting way to be a bit more faster. Okay, thank you both. If there's no more question from the audience, I would say let's conclude to keep it with these crispy 30 minutes. And we are pretty much on time. And yeah, this recording will be uploaded to YouTube, and it's always possible to reshare it and to rewatch it. And yeah, I thank you both for joining us tonight, and I see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.